What's up, everybody, on this marvelous Monday? The message today is going to be titled, We Got Through It. So, this is kind of sort of really the story time Saturday, but I decided just to wait and hold that content until Monday since it's a day of reflection with Martin Luther King Day. So, I kind of wanted to I talk a lot about my second year of teaching. I've learned so many lessons, good and bad, from that year. But I want to talk about just the experience of what me and my students kind of dealt with that year. Like, when I say we got through it, we got through it. So I'll start that year. It was 2017, 2018. I live in Houston, Texas, and that year we had Hurricane Harvey to start the school year. So essentially, after that week off, or maybe 2 weeks off, we had to restart the school year, which was crazy. The only thing that helped was that technically we started the school year earlier than everybody else anyway. So kind of we started on time with everybody else. Now, so we had to reboot there. My kids were rocking to start the year too, so I kind of hated that. But let's just fast forward a little bit and just talk about what we really went through. So we'll start that November. It started with me. I found out my father had a stroke. Thankfully, he recovered from it. He was able to get back to work and things like that. But I found out my father had a stroke that November. And then, now, I'm going to preface this statement. You might think, oh, there's no way all this stuff happened. But yes, it did. That December, right before we left for the break, one of my students, her mother passed away from cancer. I knew the previous year that she had cancer, and knew that it potentially was going to happen eventually because I had the same students for 2 years. So I already kind of knew it was coming, but it still was kind of like, wow. So what was crazy is that student only missed one day of school and came back the very next day, right before the break. She could have easily stayed at home. So that was kind of the resiliency that my students had. But I'm just showing you how this particular year, how crazy it was when it comes to that. So that particular January, let me just show you the things that end up happening. One of my students' sisters died. She was sick as well. I want to say another one of my students' grandmother died, and I want to say maybe another one of my students had a similar something like that happen. And then my grandmother died. So that was just this all happened within a 2 month span. And then adding to that, I want to say it was that February, one of my students, she was adopted, her birth parents died. So all within that short span of time, those students lost people. And then I'm not even going to, it can't even get into all the other things that happened in a year as far as like adversity that my students dealt with within the classroom, kids with behavior challenges and different things like that. But with that, I'm gonna be honest, not even to be negative. I didn't get a lot of support with those students who were dealing with things. So it really was just us. We had to deal with that, and I had to keep those kids' spirits up. I had to sit there and deal with the challenges of things that they were dealing with. So just going, as that year progressed, I'm having to get them ready for the STAR test, and push them for that state assessment. So we did that. So after that 3 month stretch, the room was very sad, and even one of my students honestly wanted to go to a different classroom because she said the room just felt very depressed. And I just let her know, like, man, there's a lot of people grieving in here. So we pushed forward. We moved toward that STAR test in 5th grade, so it comes a little earlier at that particular time. So we took the STAR test, and the kids actually ended up doing quite well in the first administration. My room was called a phenomenal room. The goal was 100%. They ended up doing 87% in math and reading on the first assessment, what we call PEIMS, because some of the students don't count because of like their came at certain times and stuff like that. So in the second administration, they ended up getting 91%. So one of the things that was very cool that they was able to attain that goal while dealing with the things that they were dealing with. Now I've shared some of these other little in between stories, and I actually do plan on turning these into a series of children's books in regards to that particular classroom. But those kids, just what they were able to accomplish, and we was able to push through that. Now it was tough for me. I didn't miss a day. Technically, I've never missed a day in my career. Because one day I did miss this year, counted as a PD day. But they were able to get through what they were dealing with. So I'm very happy that even on the last day, which I'm gonna share a video after this, like most of my classroom actually end up staying on the last day. And that was the last time I've seen some of them. Some of them I've got a chance to go see them play sports, and I've talked about that and see them do things at church and different things like that. But I'm just very, glad that those kids were able to be successful after going through all of that. So, like I said, it was no support, and it really was just us, and we had to support each other. So, I just want to thank y'all for listening to this message of we got through it. I just challenge you guys, like if you're dealing with some, within the classroom, anything like that, you have to be your leader and be that model for your students. Have a blessed day. Reflect on what Dr. King meant to everyone and what it meant, especially when it comes to education. Thank you for listening. Peace out.